During my childhood, I led a rather uneventful life. While I was not reckless, I also avoided engaging in mischief, as my parents consistently advised against it. My earliest recollection of interacting with white individuals occurred when I traded buffalo calf skins at local trading posts, an experience I found quite remarkable. I had often ventured along the buffalo trails and sought chances to participate in warfare. At the age of 18, the Crow chiefs announced the presence of United States officers in the camp seeking Crow scouts, to which I eagerly volunteered. After we commenced our journey, my brother approached us and discreetly informed me, Harry Moccasin and White Swan, of a secret mission in a different area, as he was then engaged in warfare. We traveled as far as Tong River with him, but failed to locate our objective, prompting our return home. Subsequently, the Crow Scouts departed the agency and set up camp at Clark's Ford, where we met Bonnie Bravo and Little Face, Indian scouts and interpreters, who escorted us to General Terry's camp. The scouts accompanying Terry lacked horses due to their capture by the Sioux, while we possessed 8 horses. We then proceeded down to the Little Rosebud, where one of Terry's officers instructed us to scout for the Sioux camp. We journeyed to Tong River, where Bonnie Bravo was the first to spot the Sioux camp, and we returned to report our findings. General Terry advanced his cavalry to attempt crossing the Yellowstone River, but the high waters resulted in the drowning of several men and horses, forcing the remainder to retreat. Terry then requested the scouts to advance once more to verify the camp's location. We discovered that the camp had relocated from Tong River to the upper Little Rosebud, and upon reporting back, General Terry remained largely silent. He subsequently dispatched Bonnie Bravo and the 2 scouts back to the camp to secure horses. 2 additional scouts and the Army supply wagons were dispatched to Crow Agency to gather provisions. The soldiers remained close to their camp due to concerns about potential Sioux attacks, who were vigilant and fired upon any soldiers they spotted. Subsequently, General Terry directed me towards the wagons. We remained there overnight before proceeding back to camp. General Terry then relocated his camp further down the Yellowstone River, and we were escorted to the confluence of the Powder River. One scout, known as White Man Runs Him, lacked a horse, so he and another scout boarded a boat to deliver a message to Terry. The message instructed us to return and follow the Yellowstone River upstream once more. We retraced our steps and set up camp approximately 10 to 12 miles from the mouth of the Bighorn River, near our previous campsite. After a stay of 3 to 4 days, a steamboat arrived carrying Bouye, the scout, who informed us to dismantle our camp. Among the 6 of us who conducted most of the scouting, General Terry selected 3 to locate the enemy's camp. General Terry and the infantry commander were in an ambulance, conversing with Bouye. Terry requested Yellow Shield, who in turn summoned me. Bouye then inquired about the most active scouts among the Crow, to which I responded that it was White Swan, Harry Moccasin, and myself. These scouts soon joined us. Yellow Shield expressed the need for a total of 6 men. During our discussion, we considered White Man Runs Him, but he was without a horse. Yellow Shield indicated he would summon White Man Runs Him to join us. After these men were called, we boarded the steamboat, which took us down the river while sending the other Crow Scouts home. We arrived at the mouth of the Little Rosebud River by the Yellowstone River. Upon disembarking, we were instructed to have dinner, prepare ourselves, and get ready for scouting. Shortly thereafter, we learned that General Custer required our assistance. We mounted our horses and rode to General Custer's camp, where he had a large tent. We dismounted at the entrance, and I was the first to extend my hand for a handshake. I held $1 in my hand and pressed it into his palm. Each scout extended their hand to him. Upon seeing Custer, who was tall, slender, broad-shouldered, and had kind eyes, I thought to myself that he was a compassionate, courageous, and considerate individual. Custer's first words were that he had encountered all the tribes except the Crows, and now he was meeting them for the first time, believing them to be commendable and valiant scouts. He mentioned having some scouts with him, but deemed them ineffective. He had heard of the Crows' reputation as skilled scouts and had summoned them to his command. Custer stated that he had provided General Terry with $600 for the services of the Crow Indians as scouts, clarifying that he had called them not to engage in combat, but to track the enemy and report their location. He expressed his desire for them not to fight assuring them that he would handle the fighting himself. With the funds he had given them, he instructed them to purchase shirts and paint from the steamboat, indicating that they would depart in 2 days to follow the Little Rosebud River. That evening, the Mandans celebrated with us and offered us some money. Custer remarked that he believed we were good Indians. He arranged for the cook to prepare dinner, inviting us to dine with him, and had a tent set up for us to camp nearby. Within 2 days, we commenced our journey, mounting our horses alongside Custer as we traveled up the Little Rosebud with the entire command. He inquired about the location of the last Sioux camp we had scouted for Terry, to which we replied that we would not reach it until the following day. The next morning, we arrived at the site of the last Sioux camp, following the Sioux Trail, which forked at the Little Rosebud River. Custer commanded that one group follow one trail, while I followed the other to determine which led to the larger camp. Eventually, we discovered that the trails converged, revealing that the Sioux were all gathered in one camp. Upon reaching the camp, we observed evidence of a battle, as we found scalps in the beards of white men. That evening, we returned and reported to Custer. Although it was quite late, Custer's cook was still awake and had a light in his tent. Custer instructed the cook to prepare a meal for us. After we finished our dinner, we proceeded to his tent as Custer wished to speak with us. We brought along some scalps and the beards of white men to show him. Custer inquired whether the camp had dispersed or regrouped, to which we informed him that it had regrouped. Custer then stated, "This is crucial. The Sioux have been killing white individuals, and I have been dispatched by the Great Father to subdue them and return them to their reservation. I am a significant chief, yet I am uncertain if I will survive this summer, whether alive or dead. There will be no further good fortune for the Sioux. If they kill me, they will still endure suffering, and if they spare me, they will still face hardship, for they have defied orders. I am unsure if I will survive this battle, but if I do, I will recommend you young men as leaders of the Crows. Tomorrow, I require 5 of my Crow boys to follow the trail." We set out just before dawn. As we began, we noticed some Mandans running atop the hill, and I was instructed to return and inform the command that these Mandans should not be roaming the hills, but should remain in the valley, as we might be close to the Sioux camp and could be discovered unexpectedly. Subsequently, they ordered the Mandans to descend from the hills and remain below. On my way back, I heard a howl resembling that of a coyote. White Swan, hairy Moccasin, goes ahead, and white man were approaching to report. The Sioux had vacated their camp the previous day and had set up above their old site on the Little Rosebud. Custer directed us to proceed and ascertain their direction, and we arrived at the location where they had dismantled their camp. We followed the trail until we discovered that they had established their camp on the Little Horn. Subsequently, we observed that the Sioux had moved towards the Little Horn, prompting us to wait at the head of Tallock Creek for further instructions. However, the command did not arrive, as they had established their camp at the Little Rosebud, leading us to return to our own camp. Following this, a disagreement arose among the scouts, and I took the initiative to approach Custer to inquire about our next steps. Custer questioned my return, to which I explained that the Sioux's trail had veered westward towards the Little Horn, and I sought additional orders. Custer instructed me to have my supper, prepare a lunch for the other scouts, and accompany 2 soldiers to camp on the hill within sight of the enemy. At dawn, while I was still half asleep, the scouts informed me that they had spotted the camp. I rose and observed them through the smoke. The command advanced halfway towards us before halting. An officer accompanying us drafted a message for General Custer and dispatched a Mandan scout to deliver it. Custer did not delay. Upon receiving the message, his troops swiftly moved towards the Custer field. Custer then declared, "We will charge them now. This will conclude their journey." He ordered an inspection of their firearms, and shortly thereafter, they descended the ridge, instructing us to proceed ahead. We followed the creek downstream, with half a battalion trailing behind us. We encountered a teepee similar to the one we are currently in, where we discovered 2 deceased Sioux. He expressed Sioux. Soon after, the main command reached us, and we halted at the fork of Little Reno Creek. At this juncture, Custer divided his command, directing Reno to follow the creek downstream, now known as Reno Creek. We then crossed over the ridge, and I accompanied Custer down to the creek. where he entrusted me with a message to deliver to Reno. Unaware of the message's significance, I returned with Reno's response for Custer. During my delivery of the final message, Reno was engaged in combat, though it was not particularly intense. Upon reaching Custer with the message, he was involved in a skirmish at the creek's mouth, after which he advised me to flee for my safety. I circled the area and realized my ammunition was running low. I discovered a deceased Sioux and took his ammunition, firearm, and horse before departing. I remained close to the location of the dead Sioux until the battle intensified. I ascended a prominent butte to the east of the conflict, allowing me to observe the fighting. Upon reaching the elevated ground, I looked back and noted that Custer was the last man remaining. Subsequently, I hurried over the hill and concealed myself in the underbrush. The following morning, around 5 or 6 o'clock, I arrived at General Terry's camp to report my findings. General Terry gathered his officers around him. As I was unable to communicate in English and there were no interpreters available, I collected grass and formed it into a pile, then spread it apart with my fingers to illustrate to General Terry that all the soldiers had been killed. General Terry then entrusted me with a dispatch. Although I was exhausted and reluctant to leave, I was compelled to deliver this dispatch from General Terry to Reno at the pack train. Reno then provided me with a dispatch to return to Terry while they were interring the deceased soldiers. Another dispatch was subsequently given to me to take to the commanding officer at the steamboat. I felt a deep sense of sorrow and melancholy at the thought of never seeing Custer, Curly, Crow Warrior, and Scout again.